A320 ILS. Stabilization criteria. The aircraft is in the desired landing configuration. The thrust is stable, usually above idle to maintain target approach speed. There is no excessive flight parameter deviation. If not stabilized by 1000 feet IMC or 500 feet VMC, a go-around must be initiated. When the approach phase is activated, target speed becomes VAP. The crew will have to activate the approach if heading or track mode is engaged, or if early deceleration required. Approach phase will activate automatically when flying over the decel waypoint with nav, lock star, or lock. Pushing the approach push button arms the lock and glide slope modes, which is displayed in blue in the FMA. The second autopilot may be engaged and the current landing capability is displayed.
Flat 1. Speed check.
The auto thrust will guide speed towards the maneuvering speed for the current configuration. Pilot monitoring checks speed is below VFE next and decelerating. Pilot monitoring announces
Flat 1.
after checking the blue number on the ECAM flap indicator. Ensure that the to waypoint is relevant. Correct flight plan sequencing is important to ensure that the planned missed approach route is available.
Lock star.
For a decelerated approach, the aircraft must be established on the final descent with flap 1 and S speed. For tailwinds greater than 10 knots, decelerated approaches are not permitted. Intercepting the glide slope below 2,000 feet, select flap 2 at 1 dot below the glide slope.
Lock. Glide slope start. Setting go around altitude. Flap 2. Speed check. Flap 2.
Select flap 2 on glide slope approaching 2,000 feet above threshold.
Gear down.
Pilot monitoring announces
Gear down.
after checking the red lights on landing gear indicator to confirm operation. After selecting the gear down, the pilot monitoring confirms the auto brake selection, arms the ground spoilers, and turns the nose and runway turn-off lights to on.
Flap 3. Speed check. Flap 3.
Pilot monitoring checks the ECAM wheel page and landing gear indicator panel for indication that the gear is down. Pilot monitoring checks the triple indicator for any residual brake pressure.
Flap 4. Speed check. Flap 4.
Pilot monitoring reads landing checklist. On a 3-degree glide slope with configuration full, the aircraft decelerates at approximately 20 knots per nautical mile. Aircraft fully stabilized. The pilot monitoring will make the following call-outs during the final approach.
Speed.
If the speed decreases below target by 5 knots or increases above target by 10 knots.
Sync rate.
When descent rate exceeds 1,200 feet per minute.
Bank.
When bank angle becomes greater than 7 degrees.
Pitch.
If the pitch becomes lower than 2.5 degrees or higher than 10 degrees.
Lock.
Or
Glide.
if deviation is half-scale lock or half-scale glide slope. Data lock. At 700 feet radio altitude with lock and glide slope armed or engaged, the ILS frequency and course are frozen in the receiver. Any modification in the MCDU performance page does not cause a change in managed speed. Land mode engages below 400 feet radio altitude and can only be disengaged by engaging go-around mode or if both autopilot and flight directors are disengaged. No action on the FCU will disengage land mode. For manual landings, the pilot should disconnect the autopilot early enough to resume manual control of the aircraft and evaluate drift before flare.
Minimum.
Continue.
If the pilot flying decides to discontinue the approach, he will call
Go around flaps.
the thrust levers should be retarded to idle by 30 feet.
Spoilers. Reverse screen. Decel.
Pilot flying must select reverse idle by 70 knots.
70 knots.
Deselect auto brakes by applying brakes. Steering tiller can be used below 30 knots.